Hey guys, what is going on? It is Rob from Crypto Bobby. Hope you are having a great day, night, wherever you are, waiting for this system to get kicked off and getting everything moving forward in the right direction. So hopefully, if you can see me now, hopefully everything is looking good for you. And you can actually hear me all right, and everything is good. What is going on, Egg? What's going on, Ed? What's going on, Chrissy Leonardo? How's it going, brother? Hope you guys are having a good day, night, wherever you might be dialing in from, or not dialing in, but wherever you might be streaming in from. Alex, what is up, brother? Yeah, just wanted to really hop in tonight to talk about a couple different things. I think there's some interesting developments kind of going on right now in the space. If you may or may not have seen what Vitalik had to say at TechCrunch Disrupt. So I thought that was an interesting thing, and I wanted to summarize some of the kind of points of discussion on TechCrunch Disrupt so that you could get a good feel for what he had to say there, as well as talk about Black Moon Crypto. That was one of the ICOs that I did a review on. That actually just hit the exchange. Those tokens were fully distributed today. That hit the exchange. It actually hit Liqui as well as EtherDelta and a few others. So that's great. Christian, what is up? Thanks for coming to the channel. And thanks for everybody's questions. Hello from North Dakota. What's going on? Caesar, what is up, brother? What is up? So hope you guys are having a good one here. And as far as things go too, yeah, sorry, Alex, that you can't watch it. I talk pretty slow. My bad about that. So if you guys aren't too familiar, I'll pull this up here for you so you can take a look at it. But Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, had an interview with I'll pause this, but basically had an interview with TechCrunch at their big Disrupt conference in San Francisco, which was it's actually a big deal. You know, if you're not in the tech space, I work in the tech space. I work at a Fortune 500 company in the tech space. Not a developer, but I work in sales, and I've always been interested in kind of the whole Silicon Valley world. And the fact that Vitalik is there speaking at TechCrunch Disrupt is a pretty big deal in and of itself. And a lot of the things he had to say I thought were really, really interesting. There's a 25-minute video for this. I'll link to it here if you guys ever want to watch it. But if you are interested in Ethereum, if you're interested in the direction of which ETH is going and a lot of the plans for it, I thought it was pretty insightful and a really good conversation, in my opinion. One of the big things that happened within the conversation where the question was directed to Vitalik in regards to from Naval, who is from AngelList and also runs, I believe it's CoinList, which was the system that Filecoin had its ICO on. And yeah, that shirt is friggin' hysterical. But one of the big questions, and it got all the headlines basically, was Naval asked Vitalik in regards to when Ethereum could basically compete with Visa. And a lot of what I think a lot of the context from that got taken pretty much completely out of context and straight up twisted. And so a lot of the headlines were Ethereum is going to replace Visa in 2 to 3 years or in a couple years or something like that. And I don't necessarily think that's what Vitalik was going for, but it was interesting thoughts in regards to the scaling process and how the issues of Ethereum scaling right now, where it's at really max capacity, about 6 transactions per second. Bitcoin at max capacity of 4 or 5 transactions per second, and what Vitalik is trying to do from Ethereum's perspective in terms of scaling and making sure that the network can continue to grow, because if it doesn't grow, then the vision of hosting decentralized applications really isn't going to be able to be fulfilled. And he also talked, I thought, pretty interestingly about a lot of different use cases. And yeah, absolutely, Caesar, as far as there's issues there with scaling, and I think that's one of the big things that if Ethereum can solve those issues, then we will see, from a price perspective, significant growth, but they really have to prove that they can solve those issues because there, quite frankly, are scaling issues. I mean, if you remember some of those big ICOs back in back in June, back in July, that clogged up the Ethereum network for like hours, for like 12 hours at a time. That shit was pretty crazy. So, that's I think that's pretty important. But that's one thing that I'd keep an eye on. But if you guys are new to the space, if you're investing in Ethereum, I would check out that video. It's really interesting. And the dude's about as rock solid as it can get. And he's just I think it's almost kind of douchey when people like they straight up called him an alien on stage, which I think is a little bit douchey. Like, he's obviously an interesting guy, but he's like, I mean, he's a genius. So it's calling him an alien, I don't think it's kind of funny to joke about that on the internet, but it's not always the nicest thing to be, hey dude, you're an alien. So a couple different questions. I saw somebody ask, is OMG dead? And then also another question on Omise Go versus 10X. And guys, if you have questions, definitely sound off in the comments. I try to get to as many as I possibly can in the most efficient way possible. But as far as OMG being dead, I don't think that's the case. I mean, it's down below $10 right now, but I mean, zoom out on the charts, guys, and we look at these 6-hour charts, we zoom out. OMG about a month ago was, month and a half ago, OMG a month ago was down at $3 or so. A month and a half ago was below $1. OMG, I don't think is dead. It's having a little bit of pullback, but the majority of crypto is having a little bit of a pullback here as well. As far as 10X versus OMG, I mean, they're two different types of cryptocurrencies in my opinion. OMG is more, Manetha is a small competitor to OMG that number one, for full transparency, I am a holder of OMG. It is one of my bigger holdings. So for full transparency, I'm a holder of OMG. I'm also a holder of Manetha. I participated in the Manetha ICO, and I think if it can match a fifth of what OMG has done in the excitement, I'll be able to make some money there as well. So, can I take the mic out of view? Sorry, it's just the sound is better if the mic is close too. So even though it looks like I have a freaking big weenie in my face, but outside of that, OMG is in a different space than 10X. So I mean, if you're looking at 10X, you have to compare that to, if you're doing 10X versus something else, you want to think 10X versus Monaco. You want to think 10X versus Metal. Those are the types of competitors that you would want to look at if you're trying to compare 10X to something else. So that is, that's kind of my thought process there as far as 10X, or as far as comparing OMG to 10X. It's not really, that's kind of apples to oranges. I mean, they're both cryptocurrencies, but so I'll move it closer back for you. They're both cryptocurrencies, but they accomplish different things. And to that effect, they accomplish different things. So if I'm looking at OMG, I'm comparing that to kind of the cryptocurrencies that are trying to be a payment processor, whether that's like Manetha or some of the other ones. If I'm looking at 10X, I'm comparing that to Monaco. I'm comparing that to Metal. I'm comparing that to cryptos that are trying to be like a credit card, whatever it might be. So Shane mentioned, I feel Ethereum ETH is far too coupled to Bitcoin comfortably right now, given Bitcoin's volatility. You want to wait to see how things shake out until November after SegWit 2 before making big moves. Thoughts? So, I mean, I think pretty much everything is coupled to Bitcoin right now. Like, if Bitcoin goes down, if there's some negative news on Bitcoin, it tends to bring the entire market down. Ethereum had a really big run. If we can, I'll pull up the GDAX charts here. Let's see. So I'll pull up the GDAX charts, ETH to Bitcoin, and Ethereum had that massive run. So Ethereum had that massive run in June where it went all the way up to, on an ETH to Bitcoin ratio, about 0.16, and is now down to, is kind of hovered between 0.06 and 0.09 for the past, month and a half. So it's not necessarily very decoupled as far as Bitcoin goes, but I think there's still, even if there's some things that happen negatively with Bitcoin and the entire cryptocurrency market, I think there's still going to be opportunity to make money. And I think that Ethereum could potentially decouple again if it's able to solve its scaling issues. And I think, or not necessarily solve, because I think cryptocurrency is an ongoing improvement space. And it's something that is continually improving over time. And I mean, my kind of thought process, or a little bit of my thesis really is, if Ethereum can improve upon its scaling issues, going from 6 transactions per second to, whether it's 10 or 50 or 100, I know, there's some different kind of thoughts around Metropolis and Raiden as far as kind of how and what that can potentially do to the network. And a lot of that is getting rolled out on the testnet as of right now. So that's, I think if ETH can roll out those advancements, then it can potentially decouple again from Bitcoin and potentially hit these kind of get back into the 0.1, 0.12, 0.14 type range of Bitcoin and make some money and decouple a little bit again from Bitcoin, which would be great to see. Although, like I said, right now, basically everything is pretty much kind of tied. It's like white on rice against Bitcoin for the most part. So a couple different thoughts. It sounds like I've gotten a couple different questions on 10x, and then I'll also talk about Manetha. I'm a holder on Manetha right now, at least. Probably should have sold off a little bit more than I did, and if you guys, actually, let's see here. So I'll go to 10x first. Let's pull up pay token for you guys. So I'll go to 10x. We'll look at pay versus Bitcoin, and I mean it's been pretty. It hasn't been necessarily even. It had a really nice spike. Pay token did, 10x did for a bit of time, and has since cooled off a little bit. We'll pull up the charts on CoinMarketCap here to actually see. Get out of Coinigy for a minute. But 10x had a huge spike back in early August and has basically been falling off a cliff ever since. And this has happened with a couple different cryptocurrencies, quite frankly. I actually for full disclosure, I tried to participate in the 10x ICO. I didn't get in. It was one of those kind of ICOs that sold out in 10 minutes, and you had to set a crazy high gas to get in. I just didn't get in. But 10x had one of those massive spikes, went up to over $500 million, and has basically sold off since mid-August at that spike. So right now, I don't have too many predictions on 10x, quite frankly. But with that being said, I think this goes to show a little bit of a lesson about some of these cryptocurrencies. So I think the thought process that a lot of us have, especially even if we've been holding down here or wherever it might be, where maybe you bought in a little bit lower, or you're thinking about buying in now, is waiting for another spike. And I think that what I'm starting to see with a lot of these cryptos, if you look at something like Coin, or if you look at a couple other of these ones, they're not always gonna pick back up. I don't think they're always like 10x, and who knows, maybe it didn't, but $8 or whatever it might be, $5+ might be the high for 10x. We're down back at $2, and it might seem like a great deal for you if you are looking at 10x right now. Might seem like a fantastic deal for you, but you also just might be buying something on a total downtrend that's never going to pick back up. So that's one thing I would keep an eye on, is that a lot of times, and that's kind of what I'm evaluating too, is I've fallen into this trap a few different times with ICOs and with some cryptocurrencies where I'll buy in really low, like not with 10x. I've never held 10x, but a lot of times I bought in really low, and a spike happens and I don't sell anything because I'm like, maybe it's going to pull like an OMG or an Ethereum, and it's just going to keep going up and up and up. One of the things that I'm starting to come to realize is that take profits when something spikes like unnaturally. Like if something goes up from $1 to $5, if it goes up 500%, even if it goes up 50, 100%, it's never a bad thing to take profits. You might regret selling a little bit. You might, let's say you sold it 100% and it goes up to 500%. Like, yeah, that sucks, but what happens when it comes back down? Like, you're gonna regret. You're basically gonna have regrets regardless of what you do in crypto, because it's impossible to time everything perfectly. But I think you have a lot less regret if you sell something for profit than you have regret if you didn't sell something and then it just goes and goes and goes down. And you saw what you could have sold it at and you didn't sell it at that, and then your profits are just out the window. So that's kind of my thought process on that, is to just try to understand when something spikes that it's never a bad thing to take profit. And it's tough to teach yourself that. And I think it's mentally, I've kind of had a difficult time teaching myself that in some cases, because you see these scenarios of like Ethereum and some of these cryptocurrencies that go up 1,000, 10,000%. You're like, well, just because it's gone up 100% doesn't mean it's stopping running. Sometimes it does. And that's something that's important that you want to, always be aware of for sure. And I know this is happy hour right now. I'm drinking watermelon lemonade, so seltzer water. It's really nothing special. But if you guys are drinking booze right now, I'd love to live through you. So if you're drinking any good beer, I know a lot of you guys have always had some good beer recommendations for me. If you're drinking anything, beer, wine, whiskey, love to hear about it. Love to hear where you guys are watching in from today. That'd be pretty sweet too. And just taking a look at these questions as well. So as you guys are kind of talking through some things, some folks there asked about whiskey. Love that. Cheers, Scott. Some folks asked about Black Moon, and I'll pull this up. So Black Moon actually finished the disbursement of their cryptocurrency right now. And they are actually available as of this time on Liqui. So there was a little bit of a spike. It's kind of settled down now. I think some people are selling off profits. But I'll pull this up here so we can take a look. Where are my homies from BMC at? Apparently I'm blind right now. Give me a second to actually find where the heck BMC is. And there we go. So BMC had a spike after its ICO. It was one of the ICOs that I did a little bit of a review on. It's one of the ones that had a spike after the ICO and just got released like hours ago. And within the past, I guess, 15 minutes or so, took a big dive down. It sold all the way up to a good portion. It's trading a little bit high, a little bit low right now. Basically, right now, it's pretty much right at the ICO price as of this last 15-minute sell-off period. So I have some sell orders set to take profits. I took a tiny bit of profit so far. And I believe the ICO price, Alex, was about 0.032 ETH or 0.0031 ETH. So it's pretty much right at the ICO price. Once it hit Liqui, it was all the way up to 0.005. So it's taken a little bit of a dive right now in the past hour or two. But that's one where I think, this goes to show too in a lot of respects from ICOs, is this was a little bit difficult, but it's never a bad thing to take profit again. Like if you had your BMC available and you were kind of ready to go and ready to throw it on Liqui or another exchange, and you wanted to sell it for a quick 40% profit, you could have done that pretty much immediately after the ICO. Now a lot of people have tried to take that profit right away, and it looks like that's brought the selling down. So to basically back to the ICO price, but right now, for me, I'm going to, I have a couple different sell orders with BMC to get back some of my initial investment, and then I'm going to let the rest of it ride because I am pretty confident in the project moving forward, or I think it is a good project moving forward, so we'll see there. So somebody mentioned, do I think UBIC and ETH will compete in 2 years? I don't necessarily know about that. I have to do a little bit more research on UBIC, quite frankly, but the thing, at least in my opinion, the thing about the thing about a lot of these, whether it's a decentralized platform or something with a wallet, whether it's Ubiq, whether it's Neo, whatever it might be, my big thing about all these, my big thing about a lot of these cryptocurrencies, actually, I'll go to Ross's question right now. So, Ross, you mentioned BMC was $1 US when it ICO'd, and now it's trading at 85 cents. It's actually even from an ETH trading perspective. So that's kind of what I look at in a lot of cases when the ICO. So Ethereum is actually down a bit since the ICO happened. So if you had just held your Ethereum there with ETH or whatever you utilize, but on an ETH trading perspective, you were actually, increasing your Ethereum stack. So it might be down to 85 cents US dollar, but that's because the overall cryptocurrency market is down since the ICO investment happened, which is kind of why that's happened there. But getting back to, Ubiq and other kind of Ethereum competitors, I think the big thing, a lot of cryptocurrencies out there like to talk about how many transactions per second they have, how scalable they are, everything like that. The big thing that they have going against them is that people are actually using Ethereum. Like, people are actually using ERC20 tokens. There's actual utility there. And the reason that there's an issue with scaling right now on the Ethereum network and on the blockchain or within the Bitcoin network as well is because people are actually utilizing those. People are utilizing Bitcoin. People are utilizing Ethereum. And that's a lot of these other cryptocurrencies, a lot of these other platforms can talk all they want about how many transactions they can handle per second and how scalable they are, but it doesn't really matter because nobody's using the damn platforms. So that's kind of, when I'm looking at that, I think a lot of people tend to say, this is going to be so much better than Ethereum, or this is going to be way better than Bitcoin. But there's something that you have to remember, and it's user adoption. Right now, at least for the time being, people have adopted Bitcoin, they've adopted Ethereum. Granted, for two separate use cases. Bitcoin, I think, is the store of value, and I think Ethereum is that. I like both. I know there's kind of ETH maximalists or whatever we want to call them, and Bitcoin maximalists as well. But I think they both can live in coexistence, and they can both kind of fill a separate space within the cryptocurrency world, and I think they both have a lot of utility there as well. Let's see. So a lot of questions on ICOs and some of the upcoming ICOs. I've looked a little bit I haven't looked at Icon, quite frankly. I got a couple different questions about Power Ledger. They actually reached out to me, and the co-founder of Power Ledger has reached out to me as far as running a review on the YouTube channel. I haven't done that yet, and I've done a couple different. I did a sponsored review for Black Moon Crypto. I did a sponsored review for Engine Coin, and I got a little bit of pushback from folks on doing any type of sponsored review. So I'm kind of debating, quite frankly, whether or not that I should continue to do sponsored reviews at all, because I don't really want to piss you guys off. And sponsored reviews are great because they help me to kind of support the channel and support making new content. But at the same point in time, I don't want to, and I'm very, very selective. I get like 150. I probably get 5 emails a day from ICOs that offer sponsored reviews and all that type of thing. And I've only done 2 so far because there's only 2 that I've thought have been legit. But I definitely don't want to piss anybody off or alienate anybody, and I want to remain kind of as helpful as possible to you guys. So just an FYI on that. So a couple of the different ones that I've been looking at recently, Chainlink. Chainlink is one that I was looking at. I didn't actually get a chance to participate in. Seemed pretty solid as far as an ICO goes. Chainlink was one was one that I was interested in. Power Ledger is one that's going on, another one as well, and then Chainlink happened today. I think there was a couple different things that some people had questions about. I think they may have raised their hard cap at one point in time, which people weren't super excited about, but that is what it is. As far as the Icon ICO, I haven't done too much research, and Plexcoin, I haven't done any research on that one really either. So unfortunately, can't give you guys too much feedback on that as well. Pete asked, he subscribed to the channel 2 weeks ago. Thanks a lot for that, Pete. And if you guys are new, and if you've never been here before, hit the subscribe button so you can get notified anytime. Hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell button next to it as well. So you guys can get notified anytime that I come out with new videos or go live, whatever it might be. Would really appreciate that. It helps to grow the channel and all that good stuff. But Pete asked, what do I think about Dash and mining with ASICs? So mining with ASICs, I mean, I'm not, as far as Bitcoin mining goes, I am not super interested in, I'm not super interested in Bitcoin mining for me personally, because it's something that I think it's, quite frankly, it's dominated by China and it's dominated by big companies. I think by the time let me see here, Scott. Sorry about that. So I think by the time you buy ASIC mining hardware, it's probably already outdated, and there's probably somebody in China kicking your ass with cheap energy, and I don't know. I really like the process of mining, and I like nerd out and that stuff. I think it's awesome, but as far as mining goes, I don't think it's, unless you're running script mining with the GPU, it's not. I don't think it's super profitable, and even then, it's getting tougher and tougher to compete with a lot of that. So we'll see there. Somebody mentioned NAV versus PIVX, as well as lower cap for a lower cap privacy coin. Interesting topic. I think I've heard a lot about NAV. I've heard a lot about PIVX, and heard a lot about NAV. Heard a lot about PIVX, and I'll get to your thought there, Dwayne, about alts dying out as well. So I'll get to your thought there as well. But a lot of thoughts about NAV, a lot of thoughts about PIVX. I think privacy coins are going to be highly important in the near future. I made a video today. I talked about Monero being one of my cryptocurrencies that I'm keeping an eye on as far as things go. And with that being said, there are alternatives to Monero, whether it's Navcoin, whether it is, whether it's Navcoin, whether it's PIVX or a couple other things there. So I need to do a little bit more research on NAV. I've heard some people say some good things about NAV and XVG as well. But right now I'm kind of concentrating a little bit on Monero, because I think even though it is a larger cap coin, it still has some nice room for growth there as well. So Taurus mentioned... what are my thoughts as far as big banks, feds, governments shaking in their boots because this is out of their control, and do they have the power to shut this whole thing down? So I don't think necessarily these big banks and feds, especially the big banks, I don't think big banks have the power to shut down Bitcoin, the power to shut down cryptocurrency. I don't think they do. Governments, I think, have more power. Obviously, I mean, if you look at what's happening in China right now, it's kind of some scary shit, quite frankly. Basically, you can't buy cryptocurrency with Chinese fiat, and you can't buy crypto with the yuan, or however the hell you pronounce it. So can't buy Bitcoin. Those exchanges are getting shut down. You almost feel bad too. I mean, I don't know. Like there's a lot of, whether it's the guys who run Huobi, the guys who run OKCoin, BTCC, it's kind of bad news there. And the U.S., I don't think they will, but I think there's always the potential. It's always in the back of your mind of whether or not some of these governments can shut down, whether they go after I think the big thing and the easiest thing for these governments to do is to go after the exchanges, because the exchanges are the place where you get your money into cryptocurrency. So if the government really wanted to go after the exchanges, I mean, I'm in the U.S., I'm on the East Coast in the U.S., right outside New York City. And if the government wanted to go after CoinBase then, or Gemini or whoever, they could. The one thing that I think is important, though, at least in the U.S., is, at least from what I've seen, Coinbase, Gemini, they have complied with the government. They've done a lot of work with the government, and I think they're in a good position. So I'm more confident in the U.S. at least moving forward. And I also think, too, in a lot of respects, what the governments have done, or at least like what China's doing, they're just straight outright banning shit. And that actually gives, like, China is admittedly probably kicking the U.S.'s butt in a lot of different areas of, whether it's like, in a lot of different areas of global economics. If other countries can go and get a leg up on what is going to be a digital currency, cryptocurrency, blockchain-oriented revolution, then those governments should take that opportunity to beat China. China is giving you an opportunity to beat them right now, and the governments should look at that and understand that and take a solid look at how they can foster innovation and not just take a freaking iron fist and stamp out innovation, because that's ultimately, if the US or if Canada or if Europe, whatever, if they could be a hub for innovation and help to ultimately be a source for a lot of this these technical advancements, then if they want to tax shit or if they want to do whatever, then they can do that, but it's not shut down and the innovation isn't dead. China will win with NEO. I don't know about that, honestly. I mean, I invested in NEO. I made a lot of money in NEO. I bought NEO at $6. I sold at $38. But I don't know that NEO is the end-all, be-all of the world, quite frankly. I think, I don't know. We'll see how NEO does, but I don't know if it's the end-all, be-all. So we'll see how NEO does, but I think that China is, there's definitely some conspiracy theories about China, and maybe they're not conspiracy theories, but some theories about China shutting down these cryptocurrency exchanges to basically get everything under kind of one roof and like nationalize some of these cryptocurrencies and talk about that. So who knows if that's actually going to come to fruition. That would be a scary thought if China nationalizes this somehow, but we'll see what goes on. And yeah, I mean, we could even see in the comments here, NEO is going to be the golden child. NEO is dead right now until. So, Dr. JBN, any thoughts on tax on crypto sales? I'm not an accountant. I am by no means an accountant. This is not financial advice. If you are in the U.S., you're going to have to pay taxes. I think that, nobody likes paying taxes, but if you're getting big gains and you're selling those, it's going to be treated just like a security is. In a lot of cases, it's going to be treated in that way. So one thing I would recommend is I would give this a shot. I've actually used this to calculate some things. Bitcoin.tax is a website. You can calculate the taxes for free, but then it's only limited to like 100 transactions. So there's actually a paid program that they have. I think it's $20 for the entire year, which I utilized, and it essentially integrates with the Bitcoin.tax, integrates with a lot of these exchanges. And even if you don't use it to report on taxes, it's kind of cool to get a dollar cost average and to understand like how profitable you are in some of these trades as well. But just my general thoughts on taxes is probably to work with an accountant and make sure that if you are reporting taxes that you're doing it right, because I think that the government knows that a lot of people this year made a shit ton of money in Bitcoin, a shit ton of money on cryptocurrency. So if you report, like if you mention Coinbase or if you mention GDAX or if you mention Gemini or whatever it might be in your tax returns, they're going to look at that. In my opinion, who the hell knows if they actually do or not, but they're going to look at that with a fine-tooth comb. So that's one thing you definitely want to be aware of, and just make sure that you are covered there. Because you don't want to get audited, you don't want to get in trouble. So worst case, just pay the damn taxes, I guess. I hate taxes as much as the next guy, but we'll see. So somebody just mentioned thoughts on OMG. So right now, I mean, I'm a holder of OMG, long-term holder, and I'm going to stay that way. I think that, I think for me personally that I'm happy to continue to hold. There's been ups and downs, but OMG has held up relatively well from basically everything else, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a lot of these other altcoins. I think OMG has held up pretty well in comparison with this whole China collapse. And I think once we get out of the woods on a lot of this crap, then we will, we'll be fine there. So Chris mentioned any good thoughts on Black Moon. As far as Black Moon goes, like I talked about it a little bit previously. We'll see what the actual price here is now, but it's trading, or at least it was the last time I talked about it, trading fairly close to the ICO price. It's had a little bit, looks like a lot of people took some pretty quick profits right after the ICO, but as far as things go in the near future, I took a little bit of profits at around an 18% gain, around an 18-20% gain, and I'm kind of holding the rest because I don't think there's much of a point in selling it right now. I think it's a little bit oversold back at the ICO price. It sold out pretty quickly, so I think it's a little bit oversold right now, and I'm gonna hold off and see where things might go. But I'll have some sell orders set a little bit higher in case things really jump up. But I'm mostly holding Black Moon for the long term here. Yo, Dwayne, brother, you got to get off that caps lock. Couple of different people have asked me about Lisk, but and with that being said, if you want to buy Black Moon or trade Black Moon on Liqui, here's that link. I need to do a little bit more research, quite frankly, on Lisk before I kind of give you full on thoughts as far as with that rebrand, where that's been. It's certainly traded fairly well, but I would need to do a little bit more thoughts, quite frankly, before I give any type of specific kind of advice on it or any kind of thoughts of that nature. And buying Kyber Network, thoughts on buying Kyber Network tokens when it hits Ether Delta. I've heard really, really great things about Kyber Network and the ICO. I didn't participate in the ICO. I was not on the whitelist. I don't remember if they banned U.S. citizens or not, or if I was just too late for the whitelist, but I heard great things about Kyber Network. Didn't participate in it. I think potentially buying those tokens when they hit Ether Delta isn't the worst idea in the world, depending upon the rate that they go on. So we'll see what happens. And as far as Simon mentioned, going to Ripple. Ripple is something that I am not super bullish on. They work with a lot of the big banks. They had an incredible spike. But for me, the unattractive part of Ripple is the fact that there is a circulating supply of 38 billion. There's a total supply of about 100 billion. They are currently being sued by another company, R3. I actually don't know if that lawsuit has been completed yet, but they're currently being sued by another company, Ripple is, because they had stock options R3 had options to buy Ripple, and that Ripple is now worth about $3 billion, or a couple $1 billion actually, over $1 billion, and Ripple is now refusing them, saying that those options to snag Ripple are not valid anymore. So there's a lawsuit going there now. Ripple's whole kind of is a centralized currency. It is owned by a company. It is, it's not like a decentralized organization. It's basically, in a lot of ways, a little bit different than many of the other cryptocurrencies out there. And the centralization, I think, turns a lot of people off. And quite frankly, I don't think that it's worth $7 billion. That's just my opinion. You might have your own opinion. I have a friend who's made six figures I have a friend that's made six figures in the IC or in Ripple as well. But so Scott, thanks for that. Thanks for that super chat. I appreciate that, dude. And we can definitely talk about Zcash there for you as well. And then a GDO, I'll get to the platforms for trading digital currencies there. So I'll pull up Zcash, Scott. So thanks for that super chat there. I appreciate it for sure. Zcash up to $413 million market cap at this point in time. Has had a pretty nice movement in terms of, let's see here. I'll pull up Zcash if I can in Coinigy. So Zcash is down a bit from, Zcash is down a bit from those all-time highs in June. And this might be one in which, you want to, I'm not sure how many privacy coins there are going to be, how many are going to be the most useful ones, but I think eventually there are going to be a number of there's going to be one or two privacy coins that really take a foothold in the marketplace. And right now that's Monero and Zcash are the first and second. I would say, consider kind of the most private cryptocurrencies. And I've kind of had a thesis that privacy is going to be big on the blockchain moving forward because, whether people are looking to skirt regulation or skirt taxes or governments or whatever it is, privacy is going to be important for them. And the nature of the blockchain is not super private. So Zcash is interesting. And one thing there too as well, Scott, like you mentioned, I think ETH just had their first ZK Snark test transaction today. Apparently, it was super expensive in terms of the gas transaction fee. But if ETH can roll out ZK Snark successfully, that might take away some of the utility of Zcash. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to drop the price of Zcash more. Obviously, we're down quite a bit from these. We're down quite a bit from the all-time highs in June of 400, 440 or so down to 187. But I think that's one thing that you certainly want to be aware of is, and I think just even totally speaking, is there's a lot of cryptocurrencies out there that are trying to do something that Ethereum might roll into, kind of might be able to do. And if Ethereum can do it and there's more scale and there's more people doing it, then do you need a separate cryptocurrency? Do you need a separate token to do it? And you might not. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I need to look kind of more a little bit at the underlying tech behind Zcash to see if it's really differentiated enough from what Ethereum is trying to roll out with ZK Snarks. But again, too, a lot of the technical advancements that are happening with ETH, I think that we need to see them really be rolled out on the mainnet and into a production environment and not within the test net to really get a good feel for how effective and how good they can be. So we'll see what happens there. Taking a look here at some of these questions. And so one thing too, and I can get back to it, a GDO mentioned, what platforms do I use for trading cryptocurrency? So my favorites are, for me, is GDAX. GDAX is one favorite. And GDAX is what I utilize for buying Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin with US dollars. And then I utilize Bittrex Bittrex is like my favorite, I would say, altcoin exchange. They have a variety of Bitcoin and Ethereum pairings. They have a ton of Ethereum and Bitcoin pairings. So I utilize Bittrex for that type of trading. And then from the perspective of recent ICOs, I will use either I'll use EtherDelta, or I'll use Liqui as well. So Liqui is one that usually has things before Bittrex does and is a decent centralized exchange. Liqui is a decentralized exchange that is a little bit more difficult to use. You have to send your ETH to a smart contract, or you have to send your tokens to a smart contract, and once they're in the smart contract, then you send them to an order book. So it's a little bit more confusing, but we'll see. So somebody mentioned, am I still optimistic about Manetha? I am still fairly optimistic. I probably should have sold some of my Manetha for more of a profit than I did. I mean, it's down a pretty good bit right now, especially from an ETH trading perspective. It was up to, I mean, we can see here the charts on Ether Delta just absolutely below. So my apologies there, but it was kind of hovering above 0.008 Ethereum for a while and has steadily dipped off and is now trading at, it dived pretty hard to 0.006 Manetha per ETH. But I do think that once Manetha hits a larger exchange, that is something that it's going to just jack up the price, quite frankly. I think once Manetha MTH hits something like Bittrex, hits something like Poloniex, you're going to see a big spike. A lot of people, I think, are interested in Manetha, but I also do believe that Ether Delta is a pain in the... I can use Ether Delta. I don't have a problem utilizing it, but the user experience isn't as good as using like a Bittrex or a Poloniex or a Liqui. So that's something that I think that once that barrier to entry is taken away and there's a lot more volume, you're going to see a spike in Manetha as well. And yeah, a couple different questions there about Black Moon. Yeah, it looks like people sold off quite a bit, so it's back at the ICO price as of right now. So I'm going to hold on to... I took a tiny bit of profit. I think I took like 1 ETH worth of profit, so not a lot, but I took like 1 ETH worth of profit, and I'm just going to hold on to the rest because it's not really, in my opinion, I mean, it's not super worth selling if you're at the ICO price. Then, you know, why? Why would I bother? Who knows? So Simon mentioned buying the daily max on Coinbase every day and trying to, what do you think long term that's cheap? Quite frankly, my long-term perspective in a lot of respects right now is that my long-term perspectives right now in a lot of ways are trying to stack as many Bitcoin and Ethereum as possible. I think Bitcoin and Ethereum are, in my opinion, two of the... I like both. I know, like I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think there's a lot of, like, in some cases, like, there's Bitcoin maximalists that think Ethereum is a shit coin and whatever. And there's people that from Ethereum that think, like, Bitcoin is a dinosaur. I think that stacking those two cryptocurrencies, like having an equal percentage and then utilizing some of these altcoins to increase my stack there, send that to increase the stack. Hey, Dwayne, go fuck yourself, bro. So to increase the stack, then we will. That's kind of my strategy there. So we'll see what happens. But long term, I'm trying to have as much Ethereum and Bitcoin as possible. So we'll see what happens. And I'm utilizing altcoins to buy, whether it's Black Moon, whether it's Manetha. I want to buy, for example, I want to buy 10 Ethereum worth of Manetha, and I want to turn that into 15 Ethereum worth, and then I want to take those. I want to have that 5 Ethereum and just continue building, kind of just roll it into a snowball. So we'll see what happens. So if you guys have specific questions too on any type of, I'm trying to get to as many of them as possible, but if you have any questions on specific cryptos, definitely happy to take those as we go here, and make sure that I get all of those questions answered. And yes, I am sponsored by Under Armour. No, I'm actually not. I own a little bit of Under Armour stock, and that's taken an absolute beating. So when I do, sometimes I buy Under Armour. Don't yell, Dwayne. Eric mentioned, do I have my Black Moon coins already? So you should actually have an email. If you participate in the Black Moon ICO, you should have your Black Moon crypto, or you should have your BMC. It's just go to your My Ether wallet or whatever you utilize. It'll be there. So it doesn't show up in Etherscan yet, I don't believe, but it's in your My Ether wallet. And that's where I saw it, and I just moved it over to Liqui as well. Not too familiar with Pluscoin, and thoughts there on Litecoin. So I can pull up the Litecoin charts here. We'll do that. Take a quick look. We'll do GDAX because I like GDAX's info. And yeah, Litecoin got freaking whomped. Litecoin went all the way up to over $90 and has since, went from $90 all the way down to sub 30, and is recovering around 50, 54 bucks or so. Right now with Litecoin, I'm accumulating a little bit of Litecoin. I think that I'd personally rather be in Bitcoin than I would be in Litecoin, but I think that having some exposure to Litecoin isn't a bad place to be. So I've increased it. I've gotten a tiny bit of exposure, but Litecoin isn't recovering as quickly as one would probably hope if you are a big holder of Litecoin. I think also this goes to show sometimes too, again, when something has a parabolic crazy ass rise and you see these massive green candles, sometimes you just want to take a little bit of profit. Hindsight is always 2020. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but when we're looking at this stuff right here, like you see a massive green candle, you see some of these massive spikes, take some profit and put a little bit of money back in the bank and die and go for another day. And Sparkles just mentioned, bought Litecoin at $90 like a sucker. I don't want to call you a sucker, but that's a rough way to go. I mean, it was at $90 for 12 hours or so. Again, too, everybody always says buy the dips. Everybody says buy the dips. It is completely against human nature when you think about buying the dips, because nobody wants to buy shit when it's when the market is freaking out and China's banning things and everybody says, you're going to lose all your money and all this stuff. But that's when you want to buy cryptocurrency or anything in general. But if you're looking at buying good cryptocurrency, I'll preface that and say good crypto, because buying the dips of a shit coin, buying the dips of some crappy altcoin that just got pumped and is now dumping isn't necessarily a good investment. But if you're looking at buying the dips of Litecoin or Bitcoin or Ethereum, that typically works out pretty well. Now we can see here, this was the dip here. There was kind of multiple, and maybe you saw Litecoin up at $90 and you looked at it at $70 and you're like, oh, that's a pretty good deal. That's a dip. It is a dip, but it ended up going lower. But this was the crazy dip where you really wanted to buy. And that's actually, if I head over to, I talked about this a little bit previously, but if we look at these green arrows, this is kind of where I was. You can see here, there's a green arrow here, green arrow here, 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 here. Those were places where I bought. I saw it going, to all hell, and I saw people freaking out, blood in the streets. Everybody was super scared, and I figured, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here. We'll see what happens, and it turned out well for the most part. I mean, granted, things can still go back, but it turned out well. I think that's something that try to buy on red candles and try to buy when everybody's freaking out. You're going to get discounts. Don't buy at an all-time high. And then also, too, like Crypto King just mentioned, dollar dip cost averaging on good coins is I think important. You can look here and we'll pull up, let's see, where's my favorite shit coin on the planet? So what the hell was that? Chaincoin. Boom. So let's look at Chaincoin here. So let's look at Chaincoin in the past 3 months. Chaincoin was an example of a famous pump and dump. I would say an infamous pump and dump where there were a couple of douche nozzles on YouTube and a couple of guys that really don't know jack shit about cryptocurrency and don't know anything and convinced a bunch of uninformed, poor people, of not poor as in money, but you get what I'm saying. Unfortunate people to invest in this cryptocurrency because they were going to be rich and they were going to be millionaires. And it went from overnight, it basically went from being worth less than 10 cents in July to over $6. And this is, tons and tons of people bought in here from $3 to $6, whatever it was. And then it just dropped off the face of the planet because it wasn't a good cryptocurrency and it wasn't a good investment. And it was a clear as day pump and dump. Like this was like one of the most obvious pump and dumps on the damn planet. So don't buy the dip of a pump and dump. Like if something goes from, just look and see, if something goes from being worth less than $1 million to being worth $100 million overnight, if it gives you 100x returns, that's not real. That's not real returns. I mean, that's real returns if you sell, and then don't buy the dip on that cryptocurrency because this did not rise for any other reason than people like a bunch of jackass YouTubers convincing other people to buy this cryptocurrency because they were going to hold a node and retire in the Cayman Islands for the rest of their life. So don't buy the dip on a shit coin, but buy the dip on, because if you bought, you might have looked here and you said, oh wow, this dip just happened and it went from $6 to $2. Wow, I'm going to be, this is a great dip. I'm buying at a discount. Look where it's at now, 17 cents. Congratulations, you just bought something for $2 and now it's worth 17 cents. That sucks. To that point as well, that's just one thing I think you certainly want to be aware of is buy the dips on good stable cryptocurrency. Don't buy the dip on shit coins like Chaincoin. Don't buy the dip on pump and dumps. Buy the dip on if it's OMG, if it's I don't know, whatever you're comfortable on. But buying the dip only works if it's a dip because it's going to come back up, not if it's a dip because it's going to go down from forever. So new guy mentioned, will Bitcoin go below 3,500 again? I think there's a possibility. I mean, for sure, we're not that far away. We're only $400 away from, $3,500. And quite frankly, one bad piece of news and that price of Bitcoin can drop. If you see that here, then $400 can happen in 12 hours or 6 hours or a little bit. So we'll see how that works and what goes on there. Dwayne, many ICOs are crap. You can, if you are selective with ICOs, if you do your research, you can make a lot of money on ICOs. You can make quick flips on ICOs, but that is that's something where a lot of ICOs now are total crap. Trust me, I literally get emails from people running ICOs multiple times a day talking to me about how that goes. And Sangay, BMC is not at minus 70% right now. That's for whatever reason, anytime a recently ICO'd coin happens, that's kind of how these exchanges work. But it's pretty much at its ICO price. BMC is. It's not down 70%. Might be down 70% from where somebody bought it on the exchange for the first time, but it's not down 70% at all. What's best long-term, Ethereum or Bitcoin, if you have some savings to leave in for a year? I would say go both. I would say, give just go 50-50 if you want. If you, get exposure to Ethereum, get exposure to Bitcoin, and kind of switch things up there. So I would give both a shot. That'd be my advice as far as, I don't think diversification is a bad thing in cryptocurrency if it's good diversification. I think Ethereum and Bitcoin are my two primary holdings, so that's what I would personally recommend. Simon, thoughts on Dogecoin? You have 60,000 of them. Dogecoin is what got me into cryptocurrency. I like Dogecoin. I know the guy who founded Dogecoin, Jackson Palmer. He's a great dude. Has a YouTube channel. It's a good channel. Check out Jackson Palmer's YouTube channel. But as far as like investing in Dogecoin for a return or to make money, I don't know if that's something that I'd put my money in right now. So Ivan mentioned, I think there's probably a good lesson for a lot of people too. Ivan mentioned what happened with Coin, and this is something that I pulled the trigger on about 2 months or so ago and then cut my losses. And I think it's kind of a good thing to look at and understand what, number one, why Dogecoin will hit $1 in 2018. Rasul, no, it won't hit $1 in 2018. No, it won't. I'll bet you, Rasul, I'll bet you any amount of money you want in the world that Dogecoin will not be worth $1 in 2018. It's basically mathematically impossible. But let's go back to the real point. So Coin. So Coin was one of the big cryptocurrencies that jumped up in June and July. And with that being said, it spiked in around June, July. It was up to $500+ million in market cap and is now below 150 million. It's basically sold off steadily from about 550 mil in market cap. No, Rasul, it will not hit $1. If you want to bet me, I'll bet you every ounce of cryptocurrency that it will not hit $1. But with that being said, Coin I think is a good lesson as far as taking profits when things spike, because things aren't necessarily always going to go back up. If you had Coin, if you bought Coin when it was at a certain price back here in the May timeframe or in the June timeframe, it spiked up, you made a bunch of money, and you held on to it. Now you're either down or you're losing money, whatever it might be. Outside of that, Coin is also a lesson in buying the dips, because you could have looked at this and thought, okay, Coin is a great crypto, we're going to buy the dip, and it just hasn't come back. And I think that goes to show as well from Coin's perspective, when you're looking at things, not every altcoin is going to succeed. Might Coin come back and bounce up? Is that possible? Yeah, for sure. But at this point in time, I wouldn't put any money in Coin, because I don't see it. I haven't seen a pattern where it's moved up in 3 months. This is just as bearish gets. Like, there's nothing here that makes me nothing here that makes me interested as far as Coin goes. So I think it's a little bit of a lesson too as far as what could potentially happen with some of these altcoins. And I'll say the same thing. So I participated in you guys can get a feel for things too. So I participated in the Status ICO. And this was, again, a lesson when I should have sold shit and got greedy and wanted to take profits. So looking at this, the Status ICO, it ICO'd at a couple $100 million market cap. It spiked way up to like a $350 million market cap. I was swimming in profit, and I was like, wow, this is the best thing in the world. I sold a tiny bit, but I was like, you know what? It's gonna go back up. It's gonna spike back up. And then Status has fallen off a cliff in the past, like, let's say, month. It's just been a complete bear from about $200 million in market cap to below $85 million in market cap. And I ended up just exiting out of that position, taking the loss, and going from there. And kind of seeing that perspective. So, Coin McFace, I know you've asked this a bunch, man, and Match Pool, so we can pull this up right now. I mean, as far as Match Pool goes, I mean, pretty small market cap overall. Took a little bit of a look at it. For me, it's a little bit too small. $12 million market cap. I mean, that means that there's a lot of room for growth. It also means that it's pretty easy to lose a bunch of money. I mean, $1 million reduction in market cap means you're losing 10, 15, whatever percent it might be. And looking at the markets in general, it is on Bittrex, which is nice. It's on Liquid, but for a coin that's on Bittrex, it's pretty damn low in terms of kind of where it is. They have an alpha, but for me personally, it's not something where I don't know. Dating and memberships. Does dating really need to be on the blockchain? Does marijuana really need to be on the blockchain? Does whatever need to be on the blockchain? There's so many things that people are just creating ICOs for and creating these tokens for that really have no utilization on the blockchain. Like, is Tinder probably going to kick the shit out of Match Pool for the rest of time? Yeah, probably. Who knows? But we'll see. I mean, they do have some interesting press. I mean, being on SiliconANGLE, Coin Fund is obviously a big deal. CoinDesk, Forbes. I mean, those are nice things to see. But I mean, for me personally, does this really need do you really need decentralized, tokenized? Do you really need decentralized, tokenized dating? Probably not. And if you want to, I mean, I think in a lot of cases too, if you want to see something that is, I mean, it's also community. It goes to dating membership clubs. Will it replace Slack? I don't know about that. I mean, Slack just got valued at $5 billion. Slack is a pretty legit company. I use Slack. I like Slack. I don't know if it's going to be decentralized. And I mean, as far as dating goes, I can even pull this up. Let's see if I can, let me see if I can just pull the Creator Studio up. If you guys want a good laugh while I pull this up, let's see the analytics here. I'll scroll down. So here we are. If we're talking about anything from a gender perspective within cryptocurrency, my audience, and granted, I'm a dude and I probably talk like a dude and all that type of shit, but I believe my audience is 94% male, and my audience is 94% male and 6% female. You can see here. It is blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency is about as much of a sausage fest as possible. And I can, kind of see in the names here, pretty big sausage fest as well. I think there's been like 2 girls in here and one was a fake woman who was throwing out emojis that I banned. So, kind of a sausage fest city. So if we're trying to decentralize blockchain dating, how many chicks really are, I shouldn't say chicks, that's sexist of me, but how many women are super, I don't know. I feel like right now this is like a male dominated space. Not for better or for worse. I mean, probably for worse. I think the more diversification there is in cryptocurrency, the more diversification there is in blockchain, everything, the better it is for adoption. So having 94% dudes is not the greatest thing. So that might be a barrier to adoption from the perspective of something like a dating platform within cryptocurrency. Adrian, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's what sex you registered as. Some funny comments here. Antonio, yeah, can definitely go back to talking about coins. Didn't mean to go on a tangent there. But I mean, as far as things go, guys, too. I mean, if you have other cryptocurrency, Denise, good to have you here. It's good to have you here. It's good to have a little bit of diversification, and thank you for joining and participating in this. It's definitely good to have a little bit of diversification here. But outside of that, guys, too, thoughts on Jesus Coin, the next Dogecoin. They've got a better page than 95% of ICOs. I mean, when I talk about shit coins, I mean, I can search Jesus Coin, and I mean, if you're trying to profit on, I guess there's a lot of people that profit on Jesus, but if you're trying to tokenize Jesus and this is literally like peak hype bullshit is this. So thanks for bringing this up, but this is peak hype bullshit. Like, you can't add decentralization to everything. Like, you don't need to decentralize Jesus. Like, Jesus died like 2,000 years ago if we're going at, in the Bible or whatever. Not that religious, but I think he died 2,000 years ago. I don't think you can decentralize him. Shit. Like, I don't think you, Razul, I don't know if you're trolling me or whatever, but like, you literally couldn't pay me to read the Jesus Coin IC or white paper. Like, let's pull this up here. Decentralizing Jesus on the blockchain. So not to be I'm not gonna curse Jesus, but I might say some negative things about Jesus Coin. So that's me. That's a load. Like, there's so many things out there, and I know I get advertisements literally every day for Paragon Coin, which was some model and the game who created this and are paying for all this press and all this crap, and they're decentralizing marijuana real estate. Like, do you really need to decentralize marijuana real estate? No, you don't. Like, not everything needs to be decentralized. Not everything needs to be a token. And if you think it does and you put your money behind it, don't be surprised when you lose all your money. Don't be surprised when you get chain coined and you go from putting, you put 20 ETH or 10 ETH you put 10 ETH into the Jesus Coin ICO, and maybe it goes up to 11 ETH at a certain point in time, and then you turn your back, and a month later you have what was 10 Ethereum is now 1 ETH. So that's something that that's something you want to be aware of. Moses Coin might be on deck. We might need to decentralize Moses. We might need to might need to be aware of that. There's a lot of things there. Anything's outside of, like, if you guys have other questions too, outside of Jesus Coin, because I don't want to talk about Jesus Coin anymore because I don't want to go to hell. But sorry about that. Got to go back to the super chat there, Jeff. What is going on, brother? Appreciate that. VTorrent, VTR. So I'll look at that, and I appreciate the super chat there as well, man. I will pull that up, brother. So VTorrent, another super small market cap crypto. It's been around for a little bit of time. This looks like something that is a little bit for me too small in terms of, $2 million is a tiny market cap. It's grown somewhat nicely, but VTR, VTorrent, whatever you want to call it, is something that I think is a little bit, this just doesn't, I don't know. For me, $2 million is there's not enough liquidity there. If we look at the markets, it's traded on Bittrex, which is great. It's traded on Bittrex, and that is actually decent volume. 107, not decent, but okay volume, 107,000. But still, that's something that, for me personally, I think is a little bit, too many people. This is a little bit open to manipulation in my book, and could probably be pretty easily manipulated. And for the most part, this looks like it just trades pretty evenly to its Bitcoin pairing as well for the most part. So as far as that goes, you're probably better off just having your money in Bitcoin, at least in my opinion. I don't typically mess around with crypto under 10. I would say like under 20, 25 million in market cap. I think anything under that is a little bit small for me in terms of the overall, in terms of the overall thing there. So somebody else. So a couple different questions here. I'm getting to. And again, let's see where it was. Again, Jeff, thanks for that. Thanks for that super chat. I appreciate that, dude. So thoughts on Steemit. So I'll pull up my Steemit profile, and if you guys aren't on Steemit, shoot me a follow. Steemit's interesting. I mean, as far as Steem, the crypto goes, I'm not like incredibly bullish on Steemit like long term. Like I mean, I think the platform is interesting, but I know there's some people out there. There's one dude who's basically like the face of. He's kind of like put himself into basically inserted himself as like the face of Steemit and Steem. I think it's Jerry Banfield or whatever. Jerry Banfield, and he's saying Steem is going to 10x, and I don't agree with that. I think 264 million for Steem right now is probably somewhat of it's probably still overvalued in terms of like the utility of the platform and like what it does. But it works pretty well. It's basically just Reddit it's kind of a beta version of Reddit where you get paid for posting things. And some people can do, here we go. Jerry Banfield, this dude, he gets a ton of money on every post. He makes like 100, 200, 300, sometimes like $1,000 per post. And a lot of these guys like Box Mining, he's another guy in the crypto space, posts something and makes like $60 per post. So they make a good amount of money. But it's interesting because right now I'll take a look at this, and this has whatever this has. He has a graphic design header, whatever. It has 596 votes, and he's made $100, but there's only been 341 people as far as Steem goes, there's only 341 people that have actually looked at this, and 93 comments, and all the comments for the most part are all like bullshit. They're all like, hey, sad face, smiley face, hey, thanks for the great content. Like, it's all people just trying to get upvotes and stuff like that to make money. So I think Steem has kind of like an inherent problem of it's just like a lot of people spamming crap to try and get upvotes and try to make money. But the overall cryptocurrency, as far as that goes, who knows? And somebody mentioned BitConnect. BitConnect I'm not in on BitConnect. I'm not super positive on BitConnect. It's not a cryptocurrency I personally have any interest in. It gets compared pretty often to a Ponzi scheme type thing. I know they promise a little bit of returns. It's traded on their own exchange. I am not. For me, I would stay away from BitConnect with a 10-foot pole. It's just something I have no interest in. I'm not a multi-level marketing guy. I'm not interested in anything. I don't know. BitConnect is not my cup of tea. Maybe it is for some people. I know there's some people out there that promote BitConnect and talk about it, but if that thing goes belly up and you're promoting it or you're investing in it, then that's on you, honestly. Electronium is not one I'm familiar with, so I would have to take a look at that, quite frankly. And taking a look at a couple things. Did OMG break $1 billion market cap? I believe it might be a little bit below. Yeah, so OMG has broken $1 billion in market cap previously, but right now is a little bit below that. So, we'll see how that continues to potentially develop. But as I've said before, I'm a long-term holder of OMG. I like OMG. I think it's probably one of the best projects and one of the best companies in the crypto space with the adoption that they're getting and things of that nature. So we'll see what goes on with OMG, but I'm holding that long-term because I want to see where that goes. So Mark mentioned, should I store ETH I trade in my Ether wallet or Exodus? It depends on what you're doing in terms of trading. I mean, for me personally, I got the Ledger wallet. That's kind of my long-term hold safety place where I keep my ETH, where I keep my ERC20 token. So whether it's I keep my OMG on my Ledger Nano S, I keep my Civic on my Ledger Nano S. I keep my ETH. I keep my Bitcoin there. That's kind of all, where I keep it all. And if I want to trade anything, I'll put it on GDAX or, on Bittrex. But for the most part, I try to keep my money off of exchanges as well. Somebody mentioned the Syndicator ICO. Syndicator ICO is an interesting one. I've heard some pretty good things from a lot of people about it, but I didn't participate in. I don't remember. I think there was a verification process, and I believe you couldn't be a U.S. citizen if I'm not crazy. So I did not participate in that because I am a U.S. citizen. So if they ban U.S. citizens, your boy Rob is out. Checking in on some of these questions too, so sorry for kind of waiting there. What do I think about Ethereum Classic? For me personally, I would rather hold Ethereum. I know there are, and I'll quick answer real quick. OMG, what price did I get that at? I got it at about $1 and at about $7, so the majority of it at about $1. So I'm profit in both places. But as far as Ethereum Classic ETC goes, it's not something I'm super interested in personally. I know some people really like it. Some people have invested in it, but from that perspective, ETC is, I know like Barry Silbert is a pretty big proponent of ETC, but for me, I mean, I would rather have my money in Ethereum than ETC. No, in a lot of cases, just using a VPN if you're a U.S. citizen isn't enough because a lot of crypto or a lot of companies are now doing KYC checks. So know your customer, know your client check, where whether it is identity verification with your passport or an ID. I don't remember if Syndicator is one of those, but I have a VPN. I use TunnelBear if I want to or if I need to, but a lot of these cryptocurrencies are now asking for a driver's license or a passport and a passport number and a passport picture. So if you're a U.S. citizen, there's not really a way to get around having your passport there. But at least that's what I've seen. I mean, you could if it's just a matter of being a U.S. citizen, it used to like a month or so ago, all these companies did would be to ban some of these. What am I even saying? IP addresses, American IP addresses, and then that was it. But outside of that, for right now, now they're starting to do more KYC stuff because there's more of an issue there around how this continues to develop and move forward. And I think there's going to be a lot more regulation around ICO, so companies really want to cover their asses for sure. Simon mentioned, I don't have a wallet. I'm storing my coins on Poloniex. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? Don't search. If you guys are unfamiliar with the crypto space or if you're fairly new, what I'd recommend you do if you're, keeping your coins on an exchange is Google Mt. Gox. Look at what Mt. Gox is. Also, Cryptsy was another one. Back in the day, I used to use Cryptsy. It was CRYPTSY. Cryptsy.com. Both went bankrupt, both went away with your cryptocurrency. So it is possible if you have your money on a centralized exchange, then I'll get to your question in a second there, man. Have a decent amount of money on an exchange. Something like Mt. Gox could potentially happen. Something like Cryptsy could potentially happen. So I would recommend storing the majority of your money off of an exchange, unless I think really in the only case like Coinbase and GDAX, I don't know if Gemini is FDIC insured, but I believe Coinbase and GDAX are FDIC insured in case they like got hacked or they went bankrupt. You would literally be reimbursed by the government. To my knowledge, that is the case. So that's something I think you want to. I would get your money off of exchanges for sure. So Eric, you've talked about a little bit about, or you asked a little bit about Black Moon. I mean, right now, I think this is, some when shit just hits an exchange after an ICO, it's interesting to see kind of how it trades out. You have a lot of kind of silly people right away buying in way higher than they probably should. And then after that, it typically drops back down, which we saw. It went all the way down to basically the ICO price, even potentially a little bit lower, and now is up a decent amount from the actual. I think it's up about 10% right now from the ICO time frame. So, I mean, you're looking at 10-15% profit from the ICO if you got in on that. So if you have a lot of money in it, if you feel overexposed, taking a 15-20% profit is never a bad thing. I mean, could it spike up more? Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how that moves, but it's tough to predict how something's going to trade in its first day on the market. And guys, if you are new to the channel too, if this is your first time ever kind of hanging out with me, I appreciate you hanging out for happy hour. Unfortunately, not drinking beer tonight. Got a work thing tomorrow, so I got to get ready for that and just kind of make sure that I'm not being a total idiot for work tomorrow. But hit the subscribe button if you are new here. That'd be fantastic. I would really, really appreciate that if you hit the subscribe button, that little notify bell as well. That'd be awesome. And if you guys are, I know a couple of you have hit the notify button before, but if you have hit that bell, let me know in the comments. I would really appreciate that, just so I can kind of take a mental note of who's hit the bell and hopefully do something special for you guys in the near future, because it's pretty awesome that 150, 200 people a lot of times are able to come in and hang out with me. But if you are new, hit the subscribe button. That'd be fantastic. And if you have hit that bell, let me know in the comments, just so I can take a mental note. And again, trying to think of some cool things to do for you guys, whether that's just like ETH giveaways or Bitcoin giveaway or whatever. Trying to figure out some cool stuff for y'all, which would be fun to get going as well. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, appreciate that, brother. Jerkin. Why does that name happen? So Ryan, and this is just generally speaking in regards to not necessarily BMC, but I mentioned this a little bit earlier. But with that being said, CoinBase, appreciate it, my dude. With Ethereum or with an ICO or with any cryptocurrency, I mean, my outlook right now is looking at how can I increase my Ethereum holdings, how can I increase my Bitcoin holdings. What could you potentially do to do that? In a lot of cases, it is trading some of these. It's whether you're participating in an ICO or if you are kind of doing something else. Where if you're participating in the ICO or if you are just riding a wave upwards, but the BMC ICO happened at, I believe it was 0.0032, and this is close to 0.0035 right now. So if you're looking at this, you are, while it might say 93, you might be saying, okay, well, I lost 7 cents or something like that. You actually have, if you had kept your money in Ethereum, you would have lost more money. So you actually shielded yourself. You could kind of think of it two ways. You shielded yourself from a loss, from more of a US dollar loss in Ethereum, or if you sold right now, you'd actually get more Ethereum than you bought in with, which is one of the big goals, I think, at least for me, is if I spend, if just for example, like if we buy 10 Ethereum, I forget the exact ICO price, but let's just say, for example, this isn't the exact ICO price, but if you bought 10 Ethereum at 0.0032. So what am I doing here? Shit, I don't even know what math I was trying to do. Actually, yeah, I do. So if we bought 10 Ethereum at 0.0032, we would have 3,000 Black Moon cryptos. Now, if we were to sell that, we would have, let's see, 0.00377 you would have 11. So you would have made 1.78 ETH if you, if you made that trade. Granted, you might be down on a US dollar percentage, but if you make this trade right now, if you're confident if your goal is just to make more ETH, if your goal is because you want to increase your ETH stack, then you would have made 1.78 ETH. And granted, maybe because the price of Ethereum dropped significantly, or dropped a good bit because of the China regulation, all that crap, then you might be down from a US dollar percentage, but you actually made Ethereum. So if the price of Ethereum after Metropolis happens and after Raiden happens and after all that good stuff goes on, if the price of ETH goes up to $400 or $500, then your investment goes up to whatever it was. So that's kind of how I think about cryptocurrency trading or investing in ICOs in some of these cases is, you want to look at the US dollar or whatever your fiat currency is, but you also want to think about the ETH or Bitcoin pairing, because that's the goal, at least for a lot of people, is increasing their stacks of Bitcoin and increasing their stacks of Ethereum. And that's a good kind of approach to have, because those are some of the most popular cryptos out there. Got the owner of the company you work for interested in Bitcoin. He'll be a whale. Yeah, it's pretty damn awesome. Glad that was helpful for you, Ryan. And Chris, thanks for subscribing, and thanks for everybody that subscribed and hit the notify button and all that good stuff. I really, really do appreciate it. No BS. Just seeing kind of this channel grow, and I squeaked like a 12-year-old, but seeing this channel grow and talking to you guys has been so much fun, and I really, really look forward to it. And it's made my experience within cryptocurrency a blast. So I appreciate it. And hopefully the information and just our conversations are helpful for you and insightful for you. And if there's anything I could do to be better, please let me know. I know, a lot of you guys give me some advice, so that'd be helpful. But outside of that, guys, too, been going on tonight for about an hour and a half. So at this point, I'm probably going to wrap up for the evening. I appreciate everybody's questions and comments and all the participation. I hope you have a fantastic day or night wherever you might be, have dialed in from. I know it's kind of all over the globe at this point. So I really do appreciate it. Again, if you are new, hit the subscribe button, hit a like button too. Have a fantastic day, night. Thank you so much, guys, for your time, for your questions, for your participation. And if you need anything, this recording, YouTube kind of just